S. orders. Hence if a man goes against Allah's command he goes against his own nature. These thinkers consider the covenant to be the same as the innate nature given to us by Allah's. This book is not concerned with the detail of these two theories. Anyway, whether a man breaks the promise given in Alam al-Zar, or goes against his innate nature, he commits a greater sin. This fact has been emphasized in most ayats and traditions, and it is confirmed that honoring the covenant is wajib and not respecting it is haram. It is also confirmed that the breaking of this first covenant can bring severe chastisement. The people are also warned of dire consequences in case of default. The traditions also inform us that serious retribution incurred just for violating the first covenant, which is the greatest of the sins. Hence it is incumbent upon the people to fulfill their covenant, so that Allah's may also fulfill his promise. Allah's has promised to answer every prayer. One of the promises of Allah's to his creatures is that he will answer every prayer, but this is only on condition that the supplicant honors this covenant with Allah's. Jamil narrates from Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, who said, "When a man prays to Allah with a pure intention and a sincere heart, Allah answers his prayer after. Man has fulfilled his promise to Allah. But if man prays to Allah without a pure intention and sincerity, Allah does not answer it. Has not Allah said, 'And be faithful to your covenant with me, I will fulfill my covenant with you'?" Surah Al-Baqarah 2:40. So the promise is kept only with one who keeps his own word. 5. Verbal expression of a promise. The second type of promise is one that the man himself gives to Allah's, like a vow or an oath. For an oath to be binding, it is necessary that it be expressed verbally. For example, if someone wants to vow to Allah's and state it in Arabic language, he should say, "Ahad to Allah, I have vowed to Allah," or "Alaya ahadallah, the vow for Allah is upon me." The statement of promise, oath or the vow, can be in any language but expressed verbally. A vow, for example, may consist of saying, "If I return safe and sound from the journey, I shall give such and such amount as charity in the way of Allah." If an oath is intended mentally and not expressed verbally, it is not binding. Vow or oath for a useless thing. It must be remembered that a vow, oath or a promise should not be taken for a useless object. That is, the object must not be undesirable from the Islamic point of view. An oath taken to carry out some makruh or haram action, a vow to abstain from a wajib or a mustahab act is invalid. An oath taken for an action which is wajib and its avoidance haram in a prevailing set of conditions, automatically becomes invalid if the conditions change. For example, a man vows to give 1,000 rupees in charity. If he gets well, but after he is well becomes so poor that it is hardly possible for him to maintain his family. In these circumstances the vow is considered invalid and it is not wajib on him to fulfill it. Vow should be for a useful aim. In conclusion, it can be said that an oath should be taken if it is acceptable from the Sharia point of view. In any case, an oath should be taken when common sense dictates that the oath serves some useful purpose, either by carrying out an action or by abstaining from it. For example, to walk and exercise, etc., which are beneficent and mubah permitted actions, and to abstain from smoking, which is harmful to health although mubah. Conditional and absolute covenant. Just as in the case of oath and vow, a covenant is also either conditional or absolute. An example of an absolute covenant is when a man says, "I make covenant with Allah that I shall perform such and such good action." Then this shall become binding upon him. If he does not do so, he would have committed a greater sin. In addition, he also has to pay the penalty. The conditional covenant is the one when the person attaches some conditions. For example, he may say, "If Allah gives me a son, I will perform such and such good deed." Then that good deed becomes wajib upon him only when he gets a son. Once the condition is fulfilled, it will also be haram for him to leave the deed undone, and he will have to pay the additional penalty also. 3 types of covenant with Allah's. Actually, a vow and an oath is also a covenant with Almighty Allah's. Therefore, a covenant is of 3 types. One is the covenant itself, and of the other 2, one is a vow and the other an oath. It is only Due to divine mercy that man is given a choice of 3 kinds of covenants in case he wishes to avoid the risk of being liable for keeping 60 fasts etc. Hence, he can make a vow or take an Islamic oath. Expiation of a vow or a covenant. Breaking of a covenant, whether absolute or conditional, is haram. The expiation becomes wajib in case of default. It is the same penalty as that of breaking or omitting, without any reason, a fast of the month of Ramadan, i.e. feeding 60 poor people, keeping 60 fasts or freeing a slave. If a vow is broken, its kafara expiation is same as that of breaking an oath. That is, feeding, or clothing 10 poor people or freeing a slave. But if he cannot do any of these, then it is wajib for him to keep 3 fasts. Breaking of promise and hypocrisy. Breaking of a promise is a very serious sin. It is a sin that sows the seed of hypocrisy in the heart of the person who commits it. The person dies in a state of disbelief and is raised with the hypocrites on the Day of Judgment. The Holy Qur'an says, "And there are those of them who made a covenant with Allah. If He gives us out of His grace, we will certainly give alms and we will certainly be of the good. But when He gave them out of His grace, they become niggardly of it and they turned back and they withdrew. So He made hypocrisy to follow as a consequence into their hearts till the day when they shall meet Him. Because they failed to perform towards Allah what they had promised Him and because they told lies." Surah At-Tawbah 9, 75-77. The Shan al-Nuzul circumstances of revelation of this ayat, according to Tafsir Manhaj as-Sadichin is as follows. Thulb ibn Khatib was a very staunch and a well-known Christian. One day he came to the Holy Prophet s. He began to complain of his poverty, and requested the Holy Prophet s to pray for him. The Holy Prophet s advised him, "Do not emphasize upon this prayer of yours but be patient in your circumstances. Too much of wealth is dangerous for you. If you are grateful for this favor, it is better than too much of wealth that makes you unthankful. By Allah, if I pray that mountains become gold,